our last guest of the day. Steve Messaros is from CIO Liberty, and I'm excited to talk to you because, good to see you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you because, we're talking about Liberty Trust, you're thinking about, we're going to talk about properties and
Yep.
things like that. But that's, my notes on here from my producer say, we're going to talk about other things today. So tell me what's got you interested in the show.
Sure.
Or we can talk about whatever you want.
Well, let's talk about Liberty and sort of the transition that we're going through and have gone through.
Excellent.
Probably about 8 years ago, we made the decision to begin to divest ourselves of suburban office real estate, which was about 2/3 of our portfolio. And we had about 1/3 industrial. And at the moment today, we're probably 2/3 industrial and 15% downtown CBD office development, and we still have some suburban. Within the next couple of months, that percentage will even be lower. So we've made this big transition, and we're betting on industrial in a very big way. And so one of the things that really challenged us when we went through this, why did we get out of suburban? It was because of a lot of technical challenges that were coming down the pike at us. There was document management, there was mobile, there was a lot of technology that all kind of came together that we looked at and said, suburban office is going to be really challenged. Assuming you can find the demand, our tenants could use that space so much more efficiently. So we saw market reductions in tenants. They would renew, but they might reduce their space by 15%. Their business is increasing, but they're still seeing this reduction in demand. So, and we would see that again and again and again and again. So one of the things that we wanted to do is maybe look out a little bit further, look at industrial, what technologies might both positively or negatively impact it.
Right.
And the one technology that has an opportunity to really impact the supply chain and therefore our customers on industrial real estate is 3D printing. And I mean, we talked about it this morning at the
keynote.
At the keynote.
Yeah. Now, not everyone watching this got to see that, so don't be afraid to repeat things that you might have said there at the general session.
Well, I think probably most people have seen the videos. You go on YouTube, put in 3D printing, and you'll see these wonderful examples of printing a wrench and very cool stuff. And in fact, when I showed that originally at one of our manager meetings 6-7 years ago, most of the people in the audience at the time at Liberty looked at that and said, it's fake.
Really?
No one, you can't really do that.
Right.
Like, it was just trickery. And it took a while for them to realize that technology was in place, and granted it was plastic, but those capabilities are increasing over time. So one of the things that really challenges a lot of our customers is the distance between the point of sale and the beginning of their supply chain. And a lot of times when they're planning products and they're trying to figure out what their demand is, that could be a 3, 6, 9 month time frame to get the suppliers in place, to get all the pieces in place and get that supply chain working all together, and to push that product up to the point where you have the point of sale. So iPhones. It takes a while to pull together all those vendors and pull together that really complex supply chain. Now, if they were able to push all of the assembly and the manufacturing real close to the buyers, then all of a sudden that complexity and their ability to figure out what kind of demand they're going to have for the product, you can react to the demand a lot faster and easier if you can bring that manufacturing as close to the demand as you possibly can. You look at 3D printing and say, boy, that is a technology that can get rid of an awful lot of time gap there. And so from an awful lot of manufacturers and companies that build things and then sell, their ability to tie that into the demand is unbelievable. So for an awful lot of our customers, they're going to look at this and say, if we can make this work, it will be incredibly impactful for their businesses. So if our customers say that, therefore, when we supply industrial buildings, warehouse, distribution, we better be thinking about what impact might that have on our real estate, on the value of our real estate, on the demand of the real estate, if 3D printing is a technology that gets deployed at a massive scale.
I see. So you, from the notes that I received, it's not that Liberty is about to start.
No.
Okay.
Now, as much as I would like to play with 3D printers,
Sure.
and they're very cool, and there's an awful lot of really neat things that are being done, especially in the consumer area.
Right.
But you're beginning to see adoption on the business side, on the manufacturing. A lot of it is when they're piloting certain things and they're just trying to iterate and go through the design phase. They're certainly using 3D printing, but they haven't really figured out a way to get it to sort of a manufacturing scale where the speed of manufacturing can even compete with their existing technologies.
Right. I mean, and this is my first pass to even thinking about this, but for example, if we had, let's say you could 3D print books. I know a book is not, but
right,
a bookstore wouldn't need almost any warehousing, right? Because they would be able to order up a book, boom, pops it out. Essentially Kindles.
Right, ebooks have kind of made that.
But similar to that. So then, for how much of your portfolio is warehousing?
Well, right now there's a big, warehousing is kind of segmented. So you've got these big box distribution facilities that could be 1 million square feet or more, and they're in very specific markets like a Chicago, a Dallas, a Southern California. Right. And they will distribute across the country, and they will distribute to massive regions. Now, what impact might that have on that kind of product? We also have a large percentage of our portfolio on multi-tenant industrial, which is industrial buildings that are much, much tighter into the population centers where that demand actually lives. So we're thinking that manufacturing, if and when it ever comes, that in theory it might be able to be done in those multi-tenant industrial buildings that are very close into the population centers.
Interesting.
In theory, it could also be done at the retail level. So there's impacts on the retail side of the world as well.
What else are you seeing at this show in the industry? What trends is Liberty really paying attention to?
There's, and I talk about 3D printing, but you really can't just look at 3D printing all by itself.
Right.
Because an awful lot of technologies feed off of other technologies, and they're impacted by that, and they're empowered by that. So autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, robotics, drone technology, all of those pieces, in theory, could have an application with 3D printing and could be interchangeable there. So we're actually having to keep an eye on all of that stuff.
But that is in the long term. In the short term, you are doing things in the way.
We're not 3D printing buildings or any of that kind of stuff, but clearly, I think there was an office building 3D printed in Dubai. Now, there's not a lot of metrics surrounding that, not a lot of facts, but it was done.
Yeah.
Is there additional value? And they've said that they reduced their costs by 40%, plus or minus. The period of time of construction was much, much shorter. Is there an application on the construction side of real estate? Probably.
Yes.
I kind of look at, if you actually do get into 3D construction, there's a certain design element where architects sort of have to live within the constraints of existing construction practices.
Right.
If all of a sudden you can 3D print a building or portions of a building, all of a sudden they can become unleashed. So I think you'd see some really interesting designs from a building perspective if they could ever utilize 3D printing technology. So it's a fascinating area, and one that you'd say, well, why worry about it? I mean, you heard at the keynote this morning that it could be 5 years or more out. In real estate, you buy a building, you're going to own it. You can't pick it up and move it somewhere.
No.
So, and to flip and sell that stuff, it is a very illiquid asset for an awful lot of reasons.
That's right.
So you really want to make sure that you're buying an asset that can live long term and is best positioned for the future. So we're taking a real hard look at 3D printing and all those other resulting technologies.
If people want to stay up to date with this kind of thought leadership, this sort of forward-thinking way that you do at Liberty, how can they stay in touch with you? Where do you post? How can they tap into your knowledge base?
I think coming to Realcomm is probably a great way to do it.
Okay.
Being at an industrial company, we have to do things at an incredibly low cost.
Yes.
We have to be incredibly efficient. So, every one of us at Liberty is probably doing 5 different jobs.
Yeah.
So there's only a certain amount of bandwidth that I can afford to put to this.
Sure.
It's probably one of the most important things I'm going to do throughout the year. So coming to Realcomm for me is a
Yeah.
huge education, and it provides a combination of really excited about technology, but you're also really scared about technology. And I think
Yeah.
if you aren't excited and scared, you probably don't know enough.
That's right.
So for me, that's the value that I get out of Realcomm, and hopefully when I come here, that's a little bit of the value that I'm able to add here.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, you heard it here first. Stay excited, stay scared. Steve Messaros, Liberty, thank you so much for
Great.
being here.
Thank you.
We've had an exciting day here on the trade show floor. We're coming back at you tomorrow with a ton more great content. Please watch us. Please share everything that we've shown you today, and we'll see you tomorrow at Realcomm 2016 Conference Live.